How's everybody doing today?
Good.
All right, that's good. Let's get right to the news. No, just kidding. So what if you're at home and the fans turn off, the lights go out, but most importantly, the TV or computer turns off? Your electricity's gone out. Is it a circuit breaker? Is it something the utility company is going to come fix? They should be able to just take care of it pretty easily, right? What if it's not that easy? What if the power company ran out of electricity? Where does the electricity come from? What's all that about? The electricity we all depend on every day is mysterious to a lot of us, and I wanted to talk about some of the main sources that we get every day in America of electricity. And the first one is fossil fuels. It's by far the biggest source. Almost 2/3, about 70% of our electricity is from coal and natural gas. The second part is nuclear. It's about 20%, so about a fifth, not a huge chunk, but a good amount. And then we've all heard a lot about renewable resources, and that's the third part. It's just a tiny sliver at this point, just about 5% or so, but luckily that's growing. I never thought too much about electricity until I served on a nuclear sub in the Navy and learned a little bit about how that goes on, and then I started to get more curious about where does the regular electricity come from at home. We've all had a general idea about something with electricity generating plants, but maybe not a whole lot of specifics about if someone said, where does it come from? I'm like, I don't know. It's one of the things, but I'm not really sure which, so I wanted to share a little bit about those. So fossil fuels are oil, natural gas, coal, any of the remnants that came from animals that decayed millions, if not up to 1 billion years ago. And we all know it's there, but it's going to round up eventually. Fortunately for all the economies of the world, it's the cheapest source, and it's our easiest way right now to keep our economies going. According to the United States Energy Information Administration, a third of our electricity in 2015 came from coal. And that's pretty much right on par with natural gas, which fortunately for the US, we found a lot of in terms of North Dakota, figured out how to reach it in some areas of rocks that we didn't previously know how to reach it, because they shoot it full of steam, blast it apart, and then they're able to shoot other chemicals down there, so they're able to get enough out and make it economical. So coal and natural gas make up about 2/3 of the sources of electricity that are produced, by far the vast majority. So on any given day, most of our electricity is coming from coal and natural gas being burned. And that creates steam, and then the steam is actually pushing rotors of a turbine engine that's like our fan blades at home. Those push air, but these just work in the opposite direction. The steam pushes the fan, and that's hooked up to a motor generator, which is just kind of like the opposite of the motors that we have on our fan blades. Ours use electricity to push it out. Those ones are being pushed, and then with some batteries, it creates electricity. So it's just going the opposite way. According to the scholarly journal called Electricity Explained, nuclear power makes up for 20% of our electricity, like I mentioned earlier. In my experience on a submarine, learned about how uranium heats up the water and then pushes those turbine blades, like I mentioned. It is considered a non-renewable resource, but to be honest, one load of enriched uranium that we would have on nuclear sub could keep us going for up to 100 years, even if we were just going all the time. So it's as close to a long-term non-renewable as a non-renewable could get, because it'll just last for so long. So the amount of nuclear that we've used in the US started being produced on a high rate in the 1950s, and it kind of steadily increased until about 10 years ago, and then we've been flat since then. You guys have probably heard about some of the disasters that have happened. 6 years ago, a tsunami crashed into Fukushima in Japan. The tsunami knocked out their power at the nuclear plant. So nuclear meltdown, heard of big disasters in Chernobyl in Russia in 1986. The US even had a little scare in 1979 called 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. And because all those are kind of in the collective memory of people in general, it seems scary. So although it's a good source of energy, there's the scariness out there, and it's expensive up front. So the last one that a lot of us get a little more excited about is renewable energy. And unfortunately, as of 2015, it only made about 5% of the electricity we use. Fortunately, it's growing all the time, especially the rates that we get from solar, because as more people have experience building it and the technologies are getting better for building solar panels, the price comes down a little bit. And for instance, in the house I live in Vista, there's solar panels on the roof. You guys probably, some of you have some too. It's in Southern California especially pretty common to have solar panels. Of the renewable energy group, wind power and hydropower, which comes from water falling over dams, makes up the biggest part of the renewable energy category. Even though it's just overall a tiny fraction for the whole renewable energy group, overall, those wind and hydro make up half of that chunk right there. Whereas the solar panel, as of 2015, was only 1% of the electricity we used in the country, so just a small part of that renewable, but it's growing a lot. So the reality remains that renewables, as happy as it makes us feel to get it from the sun and the wind, it's still just a tiny fraction compared to the giants of coal and natural gas. And it's going to be time, but does anybody have any interesting stories about anything around Southern California with renewable energy? Maybe you know someone, maybe not, but especially more now that we have so many advanced electronics in our home, which use a lot more electricity than people used 20 years ago. It's just going to be more important for us to manage that as a country in the future. And that's it.